Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupāda's books, where we're continuing to broadcast the transcendental sound of Srila Prabhupāda's empowered words. They will change the heart. They will give one strength, give faith, and attraction to Krishna. Before we start, let us recite Srila Sanatana Goswami's Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Mahima Stotram, his 5-verse glorification of Krishna Lila, especially in Vṛndāvana. It goes like this: Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Śrīmad-Bhāgavata Prabho Kalidwandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who were supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguru Mad Mahadana Mannis Dadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin atini chochatakada hanamunchagadachinmam premnarit kantayokspuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we reached the 25th chapter of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Devastating rainfall in Vṛndāvana. When Indra understood that the sacrifice which was meant to be offered by the cowherd men in Vṛndāvana had been stopped by Krishna, he became angry. And he vented his anger upon the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana, who were headed by Nanda Maharaj, although Indra knew perfectly well that Krishna was personally protecting them. As the director of different kinds of clouds, Indra called for the Samvartaka. This cloud is invited when there is a need to devastate the whole cosmic manifestation. The Samvartaka was ordered by Indra to go over Vṛndāvana and inundate the whole area with an extensive flood. Demonically, Indra thought himself to be the all-powerful Supreme Personality. When demons become very powerful, they defy the Supreme Controller, the personality of Godhead. Indra, though not a demon, was puffed up by his material position, and he wanted to challenge the Supreme Controller. He thought himself, at least for the time being, as powerful as Krishna. Indra said, "Just see the impudence of the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana. They are simply inhabitants of the forest, but being infatuated with their friend Krishna, who is nothing but an ordinary human being, they have dared to defy the demigods." Krishna has declared in the Bhagavad Gita that the worshippers of the demigods are not very intelligent. He has also declared that one has to give up all kinds of demigod worship and simply concentrate on Krishna consciousness. Krishna is invoking the anger of Indra and later on chastising him is a clear indication to his devotees that those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness have no need to worship any demigod, even if it is found that the demigod has become angry. Krishna gives his protection, Krishna gives his devotees all protection, and they should completely depend on his mercy. Krishna cursed the action of the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana and said, by defying the authority of the demigods, the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana will suffer in material existence. Having neglected the sacrifice to the demigods, they cannot cross over the impediments of the ocean of material existence. Indra further declared, "These cowherd men in Vṛndāvana have neglected my authority on the advice of this talkative boy who is known as Krishna. He is nothing but a child, and by believing this child, they have enraged me." Thus he ordered the Samvartaka cloud to go and destroy the prosperity of Vṛndāvana. The men of Vṛndāvana, said Indra, have become too puffed up over their material opulence and are overconfident due to the presence of their tiny friend, Krishna. He is simply talkative, childish, and unaware of the complete cosmic situation. Although he is thinking himself very advanced in knowledge, because they have taken Krishna because they have taken Krishna so seriously, they must be punished. They should be destroyed with their cows. In this way, Indra ordered the Samvartaka to go to Vṛndāvana and inundate the place. It is indicated here that in the villages or outside the towns, the inhabitants must depend on the cows for their prosperity. When the cows are destroyed, the people are destitute of all kinds of opulences. When the cows are destroyed, when King Indra ordered the Samvartaka and companion clouds to go to Vṛndāvana, the clouds were afraid of doing this mischief. But King Indra assured them, "You go ahead, and I will also go, riding on my elephant, accompanied by great storms, and I shall apply all my strength to punishing the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana." Ordered by King Indra, all the dangerous clouds appeared above Vṛndāvana and began to pour water incessantly with all their strength and power. There was constant lightning and thunder, blowing of severe wind, and incessant falling of rain. The rain seemed to fall like piercing, sharp arrows, by pouring water as thick as pillars without cessation. The clouds gradually filled all the lands in Vṛndāvana with water, and there was no visible distinction between higher and lower land. The situation was very dangerous, especially for the animals. The rainfall was accompanied by great winds, and every living creature in Vṛndāvana began to tremble from the severe cold. Unable to find any other source of deliverance, they all approached Govinda to take shelter of his lotus feet. The cows especially, being much aggrieved from the heavy rain, bowed down their heads, and taking their calves underneath their bodies, they approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead to take shelter of his lotus feet. At that time, all the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana began to pray to Lord Krishna. Dear Krishna, they prayed, you are all powerful, and you are very affectionate to your devotees. Now please protect us, who have been much harassed by angry Indra. Upon hearing their prayer, Krishna could understand that Indra, being bereft of his sacrificial honor, was pouring down rain that was accompanied by heavy pieces of ice and strong winds, although this was all out of season. Krishna understood that this was a deliberate exhibition of anger by Indra. He therefore concluded, this demigod who thinks himself supreme has shown his great power, but I shall answer him according to my position, and I shall teach him that he is not autonomous in managing universal affairs. I am the Supreme Lord over all, and I shall take away his false prestige, which has risen from his power. The demigods are my devotees, and therefore it is not possible for them to forget my supremacy. But somehow or other he has become puffed up with material power, and thus is now maddened. I shall act in such a way as to relieve him of this false prestige. I shall give protection to my pure devotees in Vṛndāvana, who are at present completely dependent on my mercy, and whom I have taken completely under my protection. I must save them by my mystic power. Thinking in this way, Lord Krishna immediately picked up Govardhan Hill with one hand, exactly as a child picks up a mushroom from the ground. Thus he exhibited his transcendental pastime of lifting Govardhan Hill. Lord Krishna then addressed his devotees. My dear brothers, my dear father, my dear inhabitants of Vṛndāvana, you can now safely enter under the umbrella of Govardhan Hill, which I have just lifted. Do not be afraid of the hill and think that it will fall from my hand. You have been too much afflicted from the heavy rain and strong wind. Therefore, I have lifted this hill, which will protect you exactly like a huge umbrella. I think this is a proper arrangement to relieve you of your immediate distress. Be happy along with your animals underneath this great umbrella. Being assured by Lord Krishna, all the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana entered beneath the great hill along with their property and animals, and they all appeared to be safe. The inhabitants of Vṛndāvana and their animals remained there for 1 week without being disturbed by hunger, thirst, or any other discomforts. They were simply astonished to see how Krishna was holding up the mountain with his little finger of his left hand. Seeing the extraordinary mystic power of Krishna, Indra, the king of heaven, was thunderstruck and baffled in his determination. He immediately called for all the clouds and asked them to desist. When the sky became completely cleared of all clouds and there was sunrise again, the strong winds stopped. At that time, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known now as the lifter of Govardhan Hill, said, "My dear cowherd men, now you can leave and take your wives, children, cows, and valuables, because everything is ended. The inundation has gone down, along with the swelling waters of the river." All the men loaded their valuables on carts and slowly left with their cows and other paraphernalia. After they had cleared out everything, Lord Krishna very slowly replaced Govardhan Hill in exactly the same position it had been in before. When everything was done, all the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana approached Krishna with feelings of love and embraced him with great ecstasy. The gopis, being naturally very affectionate to Krishna, began to offer him yogurt mixed with their tears, and they poured incessant blessings upon him. Mother Yashoda, Mother Rohini, Nanda, and Balarama, who was the strongest of the strong, embraced Krishna one after another, and from spontaneous feelings of affection, blessed him over and over again. In the heavens, different demigods from different planetary systems, such as Siddhaloka, Gandharvaloka, and Charanaloka, also began to show their complete affection, a complete satisfaction. They poured showers of flowers on the surface of the earth and sounded different conch shells. There was beating of drums, and being inspired by godly feelings, residents of Gandharvaloka began to play on their tamburas to please the Lord. After this incident, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrounded by his dear friends and the animals, returned to his home. As usual, the gopis began to chant the glorious pastimes of Lord Krishna with great feeling, for they were chanting from the heart. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 25th chapter of Krishna devastating rainfall in Vṛndāvana. Jai Shri Krishna, the lifter of Govardhan Hill. Jai, the Brajvasis, the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana, who are fully dependent on Krishna. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Okay, we'll go on to 26. Wonderful Krishna. Without understanding the intricacies of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and without knowing his uncommon spiritual opulences, the innocent cowherd boys and men at Vṛndāvana began to discuss his wonderful activities, which surpass the activities of all men. One of them said, "My dear friends, considering his wonderful activities, how is it possible that such an uncommon boy would come and live with us in Vṛndāvana? It is really not possible. Just imagine, he is now only 7 years old. How is it possible for him to lift Govardhan Hill in one hand and hold it up just as the king of elephants holds a lotus flower? To lift a lotus flower is a most insignificant thing for an elephant. And similarly, Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill without exertion. When he was simply a small boy and could not even see properly, He killed a great demon, Putana. While sucking her breast, he also sucked out her life air. Krishna killed the Putana demon exactly as eternal time kills the living creature in due course. When he was only 3 months old, he was sleeping underneath a hand-driven cart. Being hungry for his mother's breast, he began to cry and throw his legs upward. And from the kicking of his small feet, the cart immediately broke apart and fell to pieces. When he was only 1 year old, he was carried away by the Trināvarta demon, disguised as a whirlwind. And although he was taken very high in the sky, he simply hung onto the neck of the demon and forced him to fall from the sky and immediately die. Once his mother, being disturbed by his stealing butter, tied him to a wooden mortar, and the child pulled it toward a pair of trees known as Yamala Arjuna and caused them to fall down. Once, when he was engaged in tending the calves in the forest, along with his elder brother Balarama, a demon named Bakasura appeared, and Krishna at once bifurcated the demon's beak. When the demon known as Vatsasura entered among the calves tended by Krishna with a desire to kill him, he immediately detected the demon, killed him, and threw him into a tree. When Krishna, along with his brother Balarama, entered the Talaban forest, the demon known as Dhenukasura, in the shape of an ass, attacked them and was immediately killed by Balarama, who caught his hind legs and threw him into a palm tree. Although the Dhenukasura demon was assisted by his cohorts, also in the shape of asses, all were killed, and the Talavan forest was then open for the use of the animals and inhabitants of Vṛndāvana. When Pralambasura entered amongst Krishna's cowherd boyfriends, Krishna caused him to be killed by Balarama. Thereafter, Krishna saved his friends and cows from a severe forest fire, and he chastised the Kaliya serpent in the lake of the Yamuna river and forced him to leave the vicinity of the Yamuna. He thereby made the water of the Yamuna poisonless. Another one of the friends of Nanda Maharaj said, "My dear Nanda, we do not know why we are so attracted by your son, Krishna. We want to forget him, but this is impossible. Why are we so naturally affectionate toward him? Just imagine how wonderful it is. On one hand, he is only a boy of 7 years, and on the other hand, there is a huge hill like Govardhan Hill, and he lifted it so easily. O Nanda Maharaj, we are now in great doubt. Your son must be one of the demigods. He is not at all an ordinary boy. Maybe he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead." On hearing the praises of the cowherd men in Vṛndāvana, King Nanda said, "My dear friends, in reply to you, I can only simply present the statement of Garga Muni, so that your doubts may be cleared. When he came to perform the name-giving ceremony, he said that this boy descends in different periods of time, in different colors, and that this time he has appeared in Vṛndāvana in a blackish color, known as Krishna. Previously, he had a white color, then a red color, then a yellow color. He also said that this boy was once the son of Vāsadeva, and everyone who knows of his previous birth calls him Vyāsadeva. Actually, he said that my son had many varieties of names according to his different qualities and activities. Gargācārya assured me that this boy would be all auspicious for my family and that he would... Gargācārya assured me that this boy would be all auspicious for my family and that he would be able to give transcendental, blissful pleasure to all the cowherd men and cows in Vṛndāvana. Even though he would be put into various kinds of difficulties, by the grace of this boy, we would be very easily freed from them. He also said that formerly this boy saved the world from an unregulated condition, and he saved all honest men from the hands of the dishonest thieves. He also said that any fortunate man who becomes attached to this boy, Krishna, is never vanquished or defeated by his enemy. On the whole, he is exactly like Lord Vishnu, who always takes the side of the demigods, who are consequently never defeated by the demons. Gargācārya thus concluded that my child would grow to be exactly like Vishnu in transcendental beauty, qualification, activities, influence, and opulence. And so we should not be very astonished by his wonderful activities. After telling me this, Gargācārya returned home, and since then we have been continually seeing the wonderful activities of this child. According to the version of Gargācārya, I consider that he must be Narayana himself, or maybe a plenary portion of Narayana. When all the cowherd men had very attentively heard the statements of Gargācārya through Nanda Maharaj, they better appreciated the wonderful activities of Krishna and became very jubilant and satisfied. They began to praise Nanda Maharaj because by consulting him, their doubts about Krishna were cleared. They said, "Let Krishna, who is so kind, beautiful, and merciful, protect us." When angry Indra sent torrents of rain accompanied by showers of ice blocks and high wind, Krishna immediately took compassion upon us and saved us and our families, cows, and valuable possessions by picking up Govardhan Hill. Just as a child picks up a mushroom, he saved us so wonderfully. May he continue to glance mercifully over us and our cows. May we live peacefully under the protection of wonderful Krishna. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 26th chapter of Krishna, wonderful Krishna. Oh, wonderful Krishna, ki jai. All the Krishna's pastimes, ki jai. All the wonderful devotees of Vṛndāvana, ki jai. So now we have a decision to make. It's almost 7:50, and we have a chapter that I think is a little long. Prayers by Indra, the King of Heaven. Let me see. It's not so long. Not so long at all. I think we'll go ahead. What do you think? Shyam Kishore is afraid to make the decision, just in case it's wrong. I'll wait until tomorrow to read this. Okay, if there's any elaboration or reflections, comments.
From Devadharana, TDYS. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Devadharana.
Devadharana.
Yeah.
Devadharana. Okay.
I said Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Devadharana.
From Raja Lakshmi, Hare Krishna Maharaj and all the lovely Vaishnavas. Thank you for the association.
Thank you, Raja Lakshmi, for tuning in as often as you do. It's very nice. Thank you.
From Gopakanya Devidasi, Jai Maharaj Hare Krishna, all glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Jai Hari Bol.
From Rati Manjari, Jai Guru Maharaj, Jai Śrīla Prabhupāda, Jai Wonderful Krishna.
Jai Wonderful Krishna. Thank you, Rati.
From Saluni Sachi Sundari, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Rati Manjari said, please read on. Raja Lakshmi also, yes, please more. Mali.
Okay, that's the first time I've ever had anybody from the cyberspace tell me to read on, so I will. Chapter 27, Prayers by Indra, the King of Heaven. When Krishna saved the inhabitants of Vṛndāvana from the wrath of Indra by lifting Govardhan Hill, a Surabhi cow from Goloka Vṛndāvana, as well as King Indra from the heavenly planets, appeared before him. Indra, the king of heaven, was conscious of his offense before Krishna. Therefore, he stealthily appeared before him in a secluded place. He immediately fell down at the lotus feet of Krishna, although his own crown was dazzling like sunshine. Indra knew about the exalted position of Krishna because Krishna is the master of Indra. But he could not believe that Krishna could come down and live in Vṛndāvana among the cowherd men. When Krishna defied the authority of Indra, Indra became angry because he thought that he was all in all within this universe and that no one was as powerful as he. But after this incident, his false, puffed-up prestige was destroyed. Being conscious of his subordinate position, he appeared before Krishna with folded hands and began to offer the following prayers. My dear Lord, Indra said, being puffed up by my false prestige, I thought that you had offended me by not allowing the cowherd men to perform the Indra Yajna. And I thought that you wanted to enjoy the offerings that were arranged for the sacrifice. Imagine. I thought that in the name of Govardhan, a Govardhan sacrifice, you were taking my share of profit, and therefore I mistook your position. Now by your grace, I can understand that you are the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, and you are transcendental to all material qualities. Your transcendental position is Vishuddha-sattva, which is above the platform of the material mode of goodness. And your transcendental abode is beyond the disturbance of the material qualities. Your name, fame, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes are all beyond this material nature. They are never disturbed by the three material modes. Your abode is accessible only for one who undergoes severe austerities and penances and becomes completely free from the onslaught of material qualities like passion and ignorance. If someone thinks that when you enter within this material world, you accept the modes of material nature, he is mistaken. The waves of the material qualities are never able to touch you, and you certainly do not accept them when you are present within this world. Your lordship is never conditioned by the laws of material nature. My dear Lord, you are the original Father of this cosmic manifestation. You are the supreme spiritual master of this cosmic world, and you are the original proprietor of everything. As eternal time, you are competent to chastise offenders. Within this material world, there are many fools like me who consider themselves to be the Supreme Lord, or the all in all within the universe. You are so merciful that without accepting their offenses, you devise means so that their false prestige is subdued, and they can know that you and no one else are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Father, the Supreme Spiritual Master, and the Supreme King. Therefore, you have the right to chastise all living entities whenever there is any discrepancy in their behavior. The Father, the Spiritual Master, and the Supreme Executive Officer of the state are always well-wishers of their sons, their students, and their citizens, respectively. As such, the well-wishers have the right to chastise their dependents. By your own desire, you appear auspiciously on the earth in your eternal varieties of forms. You come to glorify the earthly planet, and specifically to chastise persons who are falsely claiming to be God. In the material world, there is a regular competition between different types of living entities to become supreme leaders of society. And after being frustrated in achieving the supreme positions of leadership, foolish persons claim to be God, the Supreme Personality. There are many such foolish personalities in this world, like me. But in due course of time, when they come to their senses, they surrender unto you and again engage themselves properly by rendering service unto you. And that is the purpose of your chastising persons, envious of you. My dear Lord, I committed a great offense unto your lotus feet, being falsely proud of my material opulences, not knowing your unlimited power. Therefore, my Lord, kindly excuse me, because I am fool number one. Kindly give me your blessings, so that I may not act so foolishly again. If you think, my Lord, that the offense is very great and cannot be excused, then I appeal to you that I am your eternal servant. You appear in this world to give protection to your eternal servants and to destroy the demons who maintain great military strength just to burden the very existence of the earth. As I am your eternal servant, kindly excuse me. My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you are the Supreme Person and the Supreme Soul. You are the Son of Vyāsadeva, and you are the Supreme Lord, Kṛṣṇa, the Master of all pure devotees. Please accept my prostrated obeisances. You are the personification of supreme knowledge. You can appear anywhere, according to your desire, in any one of your eternal forms. You are the root of all creation and the supreme soul of all living entities. Due to my gross ignorance, I created a great disturbance in Vṛndāvana by sending torrents of rain and a heavy hailstorm. I acted out of severe anger caused by your stopping the sacrifice, which is to be held to satisfy me. But, my dear Lord, you are so kind to me that you have bestowed your mercy upon me by destroying all my false pride. I therefore take shelter of your lotus feet. My dear Lord, you are not only the Supreme Controller, but also the Spiritual Master of all living entities. Thus praised by Indra, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, smiled beautifully and then replied in a grave voice like a rumbling cloud, "My dear Indra, I stopped your sacrifice just to show you my causeless mercy and to remind you that I am your eternal master. I am the master not only of you, but of all the other demigods as well. You should always remember that all your material opulences are due to my mercy. No living entity can independently become opulent. One must be favored by my mercy. Everyone should always remember that I am the Supreme Lord. I can show anyone my favor and I can chastise anyone because no one is superior to me. If I find someone overpowered by false pride, in order to show him my causeless mercy, I withdraw all his opulences." It is noteworthy that Krishna sometimes removes all of a rich man's opulences in order to facilitate his becoming a soul surrendered to him. This is a special favor of the Lord's. Sometimes it is seen that a person is very opulent materially, but due to his devotional service to the Lord, he may be reduced to poverty. One should not think, however, that because he worshipped the Supreme Lord, he became poverty-stricken. The real purport is that when a person is a pure devotee, but at the same time, by miscalculation, wants to lord it over material nature, the Lord shows his special mercy by taking away all material opulences until at last he surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. After instructing Indra, Lord Krishna asked him to return to his kingdom in the heavenly planets and to remember always that he is never the Supreme, but is always subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He also advised him to remain as King of Heaven, but to be careful of false pride. After this, the transcendental Surabhi cow, who had come with Indra to see Krishna, offered her respectful obeisances to him and worshipped him. The Surabhi offered her prayer as follows: "My dear Lord Krishna, you are the most powerful of all mystic yogis, because you are the soul of the complete universe, and only from you has all this cosmic manifestation taken place. Therefore, although Indra tried his best to kill my descendant cows in Vṛndāvana, they remain under your shelter, and you have protected them all so well. We do not know anyone else. We do not know anyone else as the Supreme, nor do we go to any other god or demigods for protection. Therefore, you are our Indra. You are the Supreme Father of the whole cosmic manifestation, and you are the protector and elevator of all the cows, brahmanas, demigods, and others who are pure devotees of your lordship. O super soul of the universe, let us bathe you with our milk, for you are our Indra. O Lord, you appeared just to diminish the burden of impious, impure activities on the earth." Then the Surabhi cow bathed Krishna with her milk, and Indra bathed him with the water of the celestial Ganges through the trunk of his carrier elephant. After this, the Surabhi cows and all the demigods and their mothers joined the heavenly king Indra in worshipping Lord Krishna by bathing him with the Ganges water and the milk of the Surabhis. Thus, Govinda, Lord Krishna, was pleased with all of them. The residents of all higher planetary systems, such as Gandharvaloka, Vidyadharaloka, Siddhaloka, Charanaloka, all combined and glorified the Lord by chanting his holy name as their wives and damsels danced with great joy. They very much satisfied the Lord by incessantly pouring flowers from the sky. When everything was very nicely and joyfully settled, the cows overflooded the surface of the earth with their milk. The water of the rivers began to flow with various tasty liquids to give nourishment to the trees, producing fruits and flowers of different colors and tastes. The trees began to pour drops of honey. The hills and mountains began to produce potent medicinal herbs. The hills and mountains began to produce potent medicinal plants and valuable stones. Because of Krishna's presence, all these things happened very nicely, and the lower animals, who were generally envious of one another, were envious no longer. After satisfying Krishna, who was the Lord of all the cows in Vṛndāvana, and who is known as Govinda, King Indra took his permission to return to his heavenly kingdom. As he passed through cosmic space, he was surrounded by all kinds of demigods. This great incident is a powerful example of how Krishna consciousness can benefit the world. Even the lower animals forgot their envious nature and become elevated to the qualities of demigods. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 27th chapter of Krishna, prayers by Indra, the king of heaven, Jai, Sri Krishna Govinda, the enjoyer of the cows and the earth, protector of the earth and the cows. That's when he got his name during that ceremony, Govinda. Okay, it's only 5 minutes after 8, so Rati called it just right. Thanks, Rati. Hare Krishna. So we'll finish up any reflections or comments or discussion. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare.
And this is from Anandamurti Devidasi. Jai Gurudev, please
Hare
accept
Krishna Anandamurti.
humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. I understand that the Lord Shri Krishna is our life and soul and protector of all of us. Krishna's pastime is always great and wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
From Raja Lakshmi, Madhav is asking what are Krishna's red and yellow incarnations. He thinks Ram is green.
No, sometimes he comes as green. These are the Yuga avatars. Rama is a Leela avatar. So in the Satya Yuga, he appears as Kapiladev in a whitish complexion. And he teaches meditation and the philosophy that leads to Krishna consciousness, Sankhya philosophy, that leads to pure devotional service to Krishna. And in the Treta Yuga, he appeared as Yagya, and he was in a reddish complexion. And he carried spoons and ladles, and he had all the paraphernalia for sacrifice. And in Dwapara Yuga, this was the end of the Dwapara Yuga when Krishna appeared. He appears as Krishna in a blackish form. Not blackish like ordinary black, but spiritual blackish, like the cloud of the rain cloud just beginning to be filled with water. And the yellow incarnation is Lord Chaitanya, who appears in the Kali Yuga. But Lord Chaitanya only appears in one Kali Yuga out of a day of Brahma. So the other Kali Yugas, He also appears as a yoga avatar, but not necessarily in the yellow color. That's the Shastric version. Hare Krishna Madhav. His name is Gauranga Madhav. Thanks for the question.
From Dyatyahari Prabhu.
Daityahari, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. It's interesting that the residents of Vṛndāvana have absolute faith in Krishna's shelter under all circumstances, indicating they fully believe in his greatness. But their affection for him seems to override all that. Is the affection of the residents of Vṛndāvana unique in that it can never be disturbed, no matter what they see him do, in comparison to even Arjuna, who was disturbed when he saw the universal form?
Yes, of course. They don't worship him because of his opulence. They see it, but they can't remember it for more than an instant, because their pure love is, like you said, so powerful, and not powerful in the sense of opulence, that kind of power, but sweetness. The sweetness is so powerful that they just love him. So it's right that you pointed out that they do know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they sometimes say it, and they sometimes hear demigods praying it, and then they listen to Nanda Maharaj describe Garga Muni's explanation of who he is, but they can't maintain that conception in their minds because they're too much in love, pure, unadulterated, spontaneous, confidential love.
From Bhaktarupa Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj, thanks for another fantastic reading. Really love how Krishna gives the residents of Vṛndāvana a real opportunity to openly glorify him by lifting Govardhan Hill.
Not an opportunity to glorify him. It wasn't his motive to give them an opportunity to glorify him. He gave them an opportunity to sit and be with him and just look at him and love him. Hare Krishna. There's one of our acharyas comments that the real reason he lifted Govardhan Hill like that, Indra's chastisement was just an incidental thing. But at some point or another before this, all the Brajbasis started praying all at once without knowing that one another's praying that. When will we get to see Krishna 24/7? And Krishna arranged this so that they could do just that, because there's so much loving exchanges between them. So therefore, the point that was made by I think it was Bhaktarupa, anyway, whoever it was, that Krishna's love is unique. I mean, the love of the Brajbasis for him and his love for them is unique. Because it's more powerful than anything else.
Bhaktarupa Prabhu. Read this today in Bhagavatam version. Ordinarily, they could not publicly talk about Krishna since they were chaste young girls in a religious village. But now, they took advantage of this wonderful exhibition by the Lord and freely sang of his beautiful qualities.
Yes. And in this way, all of the residents of Vṛndāvana, they were able to exchange their relationship, their rasa, their sthāyi bhava rasa with Krishna openly in front of everyone else. All of them. When Krishna is out into the forest playing with his boyfriends, he says and does things that he can't do at home when Mother Yashoda and all the older gopis are all doting over him and, protecting him and, caring for him like that. He's free. Free. Like that, each one of them showed their love for Krishna all at once, and as I said before yesterday, that changed the atmosphere eternally in that place.
Maharaj, this is Madhav. Thank you for your answer.
Madhav, thank you for your question, and we miss you. We'll see you sometime in the future. Maybe sometime you can come down and see me with your family. Hare Krishna.
From Rati Manjari Mataji. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my grateful obeisances. Thank you for reading another chapter of Nectar. What I liked in tonight's reading was that by Indra satisfying Lord Krishna after his offense, so many wonderful incidents happened, which were beneficial for the whole world. I quote, "They very much satisfied the Lord by incessantly pouring flowers from the sky. When everything was very nicely and joyfully settled, the cows overflowed the surface of the earth with their milk. The water of the rivers began to flow with various tasty liquids and give nourishment to the trees, producing fruits and flowers of different colors and tastes. The trees began to pour drops of honey. The hills and mountains began to produce potent medicinal plants and valuable stones. Because of Krishna's presence, all these things happened very nicely, and the lower animals, who were generally envious of one another, were envious no longer." As Srila Prabhupada concludes, this great incident is a powerful example of how Krishna consciousness can benefit the world. I also like Krishna's astonishing power of forgiveness towards Indra, certainly a great example of broad-mindedness for us to follow.
Yes, Bhishmadev, in the first canto of Bhagavatam, 19th chapter, in the purport, Prabhupada makes a list of things that he was saying during his instructions to Maharaj Yudhishthira after the battle of Kurukshetra. And he said that if one wants to overcome anger, then he must learn to forgive. And this forgiveness is the most powerful energy. It's Brahma Tejas. Humility and forgiveness are most powerful. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone so much. Thanks Rati for pushing me to go another little distance. It turned out to be not very much, anyway, over the time. And Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same topic. The nectar just gets better and better and better. The nature of wonderful Krishna. Hare Krishna.